Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The War at Home. We're finally at episode 10. Gonna have a little bit of a different cast today. We have one of our board members, Nate, who I'll let obviously introduce himself. We have his co-partner, Tommy, who I'll let introduce himself. And then as always, our special guest today, which I will let her introduce herself. But I just want to say it's a huge honor. I'm an absolute fan of, I think I've only been in your grace for like 6 months now. I think it was Wendy that had first mentioned you, but everything that you've shown me from the problem-solving courts to just you as a human is inspiring. And we, from Allendale to FW22, are very grateful that you were here. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So I know Tyler usually sits there and he'll go and say each person introduce yourself, but I'm just going to go from left all the way around. I know these two people are always on podcasts or on social media or on the news. Most recently got a day named after them, a proclamation from the mayor because they're warriors in the community. But still good partners of ours and my brother. So, Tommy?
What do you want me to say other than my name?
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm Tommy Streeter with Allendale Treatment, Allendale Behavioral, and Fort Wayne Recovery.
And what is that?
Well, Allendale Treatment is our inpatient detox and residential facility.
Okay.
People who are struggling with substance abuse and mental illness can come there for about 30 days or so, get themselves right, physically, mentally, and emotionally stabilized. Allendale Behavioral Health is our inpatient mental health facility that doesn't necessarily require any substance abuse. So people that are truly struggling with their mental health and mental illness can go in there and take that time to really just focus on that and not really be in groups and in a setting with people whose primary focus is drug and alcohol addiction. So it's purely focused on mental health. Okay. And then Fort Wayne Recovery is our aftercare program where the goal is after somebody completes that inpatient stay, they can go there for aftercare for anywhere. Typically it's about 90 days or so, just to continue with that support. The peer support from the other people that are there, they continue with group therapy, individual therapy. So that's our full continuum of care that we offer with our program.
That's beautiful. Well, I appreciate you for joining us today.
You didn't really give me a choice, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, hey, you get me at the gym every day. I want to start getting you on our podcast. It's a win-win.
Fair enough.
Yeah. How much weight have you lost, Jared?
I'm at 30.
30 pounds. That's awesome.
We can tell, too.
Really?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I can't tell.
You can tell.
I see it myself every day, but
we can tell.
That's what Clinton said. He didn't see me in a few months, and he said, "You're getting skinny." Yeah. I said, "I get that summer body for the beach, right?"
That's right, dude. Whatever it takes.
No, I just want to be healthy for myself and for my kid. That's my motivation. But introduce yourself, Nathan.
Well, my name's Nate Mullering. I'm the Chief Executive Officer at Fort Wayne Recovery and the Executive Vice President at Allendale Treatment, Allendale Behavioral Health as well, and co-founder and co-producer of Bare Knuckle Recovery with Tommy over here.
Forgot about that part.
Yeah. That's me in a nutshell, really.
Board member anywhere else?
Oh, let's see. Nowhere of note. No, I'm just kidding. Yes. FW22, I'm a board member. I'm also on the overdose fatality review team for Allen County. Also on the systems of care board now for Allen County. And on a board that was recently formed for Pathway Community Church to kind of bring in some more mental health programming on there with Judge Williams. He's a great guy. And so that's kind of what I'm up to these days.
That first title you said, new title?
Chief Executive Officer. Yeah. Relatively new in the last 3 months.
Well, congratulations and absolutely well-deserved.
Thank you. Yeah. So far they haven't fired me, so off to a good start.
Well, I'm very proud of you. Judge?
Well, my name's Ashley Hand. I'm judge of the Allen Circuit Court, and I've been there. I was a magistrate since April of 2020, and I was appointed by the governor in July of 2023. So I ran my first election and won my first 6-year term starting this year.
You're undefeated.
Undefeated.
Yeah, I think, didn't you do a campaign or something? It was at Summit Grill with Sam?
With Samantha Chinnery,
yeah. Because her daughter robbed me that day. I was told to come for free biscuits and gravy with Mitch.
And then she
the kid got $100 off of me, and I'm like, this is a scam. What is this?
Did you get the biscuits and gravy?
I did.
He ate a lot of biscuits and gravy, I'm sure.
Oh, so you got them back.
I was sitting there with Mitch, and I was stuffing my face. I haven't had, I can't do that now, but it was good. So thank you for putting that on.
We were both lucky to be unopposed, but we needed to raise some money for our campaign. So
well, like I told Sam, even if you were opposed, it wouldn't have made a difference. So this is exactly where God wanted you both, and I don't really know what Sam does other than she does a lot of stuff with money, but I get to see what you do, and it's impressive and it's inspiring. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
So I want to talk today. Obviously, we're a veteran podcast. We're a little unorthodox, right? We chew, I chew, we cuss. We have really cool emojis when people drop the F-bombs. But when we had Wendy on here at the time, she was running for an office position, I think Congresswoman. But she was very fired up about vet court. We talked a lot about red flag laws, all that stuff. Now you are overseeing vet court.
Correct.
And I get to be a part of that now, even more so than ever, with our little new setup that we have with the 30 minutes prior stuff, which is awesome. But I guess what inspired you to not just vet court? I know you work with Allendale over at drug court, but what made you want to be a part of that in the first place? Because that is not easy stuff to oversee.
So I was sort of dropped into this position. I wanted to be a magistrate. I joined Wendy when she was the judge of circuit court because she needed help with family law, and that was my background. So I wanted to go to the bench just so I could have a bigger impact on the community and the children in our community. So I wasn't necessarily going into it thinking that I was going to be the circuit court judge or presiding over these problem-solving courts. But when the opportunity presented itself, like talking to my husband, I said, look, this is just the next stage of being able to help these children in our community, because now I'm going to be reaching out to these parents directly that are struggling with mental illness and addiction and attacking it from a different angle, as opposed to talking just to them once they're already in that conflict, in that divorce and fighting over kids, probably because they've got financial issues. There's mental health problems within the family. They're all struggling with some addiction of some sort when they're coming in to see us and having some troubles. So being able to handle these problem-solving courts and try to reach them in a way that we address the mental illness or the addictions, as opposed to just incarcerating somebody that's got an OWI and hope that, spending a year in jail is going to solve the problem when we know it doesn't, was an opportunity to have a different impact and a bigger impact on the families and community here in Allen County.
Okay. I don't know if we have this data, but what do you think the success rate is for somebody to complete one of those problem-solving courts?
So it takes about 2.5 years to complete the program, and we are at about 86% of the people that start our program are finishing the program and have not reoffended. So I think that's pretty good success rate
Very
across
good.
the board. We have 3 problem-solving courts. Our vet court is the smallest one, just because it's a smaller population that we're working with, but that percentage translates across all 3 of our problem-solving courts. And we had 393 participants in all 3 problem-solving courts last year alone.
Well, I know for me too. So I've only been doing this 6-8 months now, but I get attached to some of them, and then just like that, they're getting their last goldfish. They're gone. I never see them again. And then I'm like,
it's a fishbowl, not a goldfish.
Whatever the thing is, where they get their little prizes, and I'm like, I just want to know what they're doing now. Like,
yeah,
obviously, they have the opportunity to reach out to me if they choose, but I can't force them to, right?
Right.
And some have, which is awesome, but I always wonder, like, what are they doing now? So that's kind of why I started this new thing with them where we meet prior, because I really want to encourage them to work on changing their environment, who they consider their friends and family. And the one thing that never made sense to me is everybody in that room is a veteran. Why are we not talking to one another outside of the courtroom? Because we have to stick together. And one of the biggest common misconceptions vets run across is they don't want to make new friends because they have their friends in the service. But what they realize is, and I said it on their podcast, but you don't see them ever again. So you're still holding on to the idea that these are your friends, but they're off of their other states. The people in vet court, they're veterans locally, going through literally the same thing you're going through. So they maybe understand. So let's communicate outside of this and get involved with veteran stuff. I am a firm believer that, we got to hold our vets accountable and be more tough on them. That's how I show that I care. But a lot of these vets, every one of them swore an oath at one point. So they had that little motivation in them, but they've lost it because life happens. They need that sense of purpose again. And obviously they didn't think being in vet court, losing their freedom and restrictions would be possible, but that's the reality. So what are we going to do moving forward to ensure that you become the best version of yourself again and sustain it? So that's my goal, is to really get them to buddy up, and we start creating like after work events and family bonding, team bonding, and letting them know that life can be pretty easy depending on who you associate. And I like to use them as an example. I associate with them. That's my circle. And my life has literally changed for the better since hanging out with those type of people, right? Whether it was me choosing voluntarily just to stop drinking because it's just doing nothing for me. It motivated me to get healthier, go to the gym. If I wasn't hanging out with them, I'd be hanging out with my old friends where they want me to get drunk and eat those nachos and not go to the gym. And
Right.
so I tell the vets the same thing. You are who you surround yourself with. What is that going to look like for you in the future? So,
And that's one of the things we do work on when they're working through the program. And at the initial stages, we're working on getting them. Our veterans don't have to have a dual diagnosis like mental health and addiction issue, but the vast majority of the participants have both. So at the beginning stages, we're working on getting them clinically stable, working with their treatment providers and addressing that immediate issue. But as they progress through the phases, we're working on curriculum to help them change their people, places, and things so that they can surround themselves with people that are going to help support their sobriety as opposed to the people that they're currently probably not supporting this change in their life that they need to have to be better for their family and to be better for the community. And honestly, I really like having you as one of the mentors that come, and FW22 being part of Circuit Court's Veterans Court, because you are able to speak to the veterans in a way that I can't. I'm not a veteran, and I don't know how to speak to them in that same way. I can talk to them about what the program requires, and I can hold them accountable, but you have a way of being able to speak to the participants directly and on a more personal level because you've been there. You're one of them. And that's, I think, very helpful for them to see that. And having you start this new sort of support group right before the court session, I think will help really open those doors for them to communicate more with you and see that you're not just this guy that sits in the back of my courtroom. And I occasionally tell people to go talk to Jared because they need to get back on the right track, and they're not hearing what we are telling them. They're not listening to the case manager or myself, and they just need somebody else telling them that. And they're oftentimes more willing to talk to you as opposed to a room full of people in the courtroom about what they're going through on a more personal level than they will with even their case manager.
Yeah, and I love letting them know that, I don't work for the courts. I'm here for you, and I know it takes time before they believe me, but a lot of them saw me even wear shorts during my honorary speaking that I did, so they know that I'm not changing for anybody. I'm here for you guys, and I have so much respect for them, and most of them I don't know. The only one that freaks me out is the one that has like 22 kids. I don't know how I told him that's the most stressful thing I've ever heard. But he is such a sweet person. And
he's just starting in the program. I was amazed when he said, somebody said, ask him how many kids he has. And he says 22. And I thought he was confused about something.
Yeah, that really stresses me out because I have one.
I don't know how many moms there are. I'm hoping there's more than one.
I'm thinking about how many grandkids, but
he said 58.
See.
Wow.
58. I asked that question next because I
don't know how you can afford that and this program. It's going to be tight.
He says he doesn't celebrate birthdays and Christmases for all 58 grandchildren.
How could you? Yeah.
I
asked him the ages, and there he had some stumbling. I go, just tell me the oldest and the youngest.
But yeah, I love forging those bonds with them, but I let them know, and I know it's going to take time. It's just like when I toured the military bases, they don't believe me right away because I'm just another act coming in. Right. But over time, we start really building that rapport. But, I don't know what it is about me, but I will fight so hard for every veteran I can because I understand like mentally what it took. And I won't accept that this is the kind of person you are now. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's so hard to join the military. It's so hard to serve your country. It will never make sense to me to come home and throw that away. There's no, and I get some people, you have trauma, you have PTSD, sexual assault. Like I understand that, but there's help. But we're so prideful that we don't want help. And then all of a sudden we're caught in the system and we're in vet court and it's their problem. It's their fault, not mine. And the military will never let you give responsibility to somebody else. So I love watching the transition from phase 1 where they don't really care to phase 4 where they understand that I messed up, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. So
yeah, and they're accepting that they do have to be accountable to themselves for what's happened. But I find that with the veterans, especially in the early stages, like they were in the military, they were invincible. Like they don't think that they need to get help from anyone else. And so when we're forcing that help on them at the beginning stages, often they don't want it and they don't like it and they're not very engaged with it. But once they're forced to consistently be involved with it, they start recognizing that the classes that we're going to are actually helpful to them. It's not just something that I'm making them do because I have nothing else to ask them to do. This is real evidence-based practices that are helping to retrain your brain to think about different ways to cope with stress in your life, as opposed to falling back on your normal, I'm going to do drugs or alcohol, or even using those things to help self-medicate because they're not willing to go get treatment for whether it's PTSD or their anxiety or whatever it is that they have going on, that they're choosing to self-medicate in this direction. And so when we get them the help that they need, sometimes it can be a little challenging at the beginning to have them engage in that. But with consistency and continuing to require them to do it, letting them know it's not just a suggestion, it is a court order. Like we start to see the buy-in happening after a few months in the program, that it is making a difference.
And I know they do the drug court. Yeah, was it Sam and Bobbert?
Yeah, Sam and Bob participate with the restoration court, and they've been immensely helpful in speaking to people that are like, well, I'm just going to go do my time and I'm going to get out of it and be done with this. And I'm like, why don't you go talk to Sam about that? Why don't you go talk to Bob about what that means? If you really think going to sit in jail is going to be better than doing this program. I mean, and they're giving up a chance to get a deferral at the end of the program, and not having a felony on their record is a huge deal for most of these people. They're going to have an opportunity to be able to go out and do different things. Like I have people that are, seeking degrees in nursing. They're they're teachers, and if they can lose these licenses if they have these felony convictions on their record. We have one that was going through school to be a mental health counselor, which is fantastic, but it's not going to work if you've got this felony conviction in your background. So, having that opportunity to do that, it's an incredible gift that they're being given, and some of them don't care.
That made me think of that guy. I just saw him at the jail because I went to meet Keeley, and he was this Navy veteran that was in the program, and he was like a therapist.
Yep.
And he is just a wild child, and he's talking about he's gonna get in the JCAB, he's gonna get back into therapy, and I'm like, I remember seeing this dude just chargeless, and I was like, bro, you just need to stay sober.
Yeah.
Alcohol is so poisonous to you.
Yeah.
You have a kid, I talked to him about his kid. His newest girlfriend's watching this kid now. And I was just like, bro, I don't get what happened, right? Yeah. You served your country. You have a beautiful kid. You were in the vet court program. Then you drank. That's where it started. You drank.
And then part of that is, he has that mental health background, so he's able to manipulate the mental health professionals that are working with him because he knows what they're looking for. And unfortunately, I can't help that scenario. And it ended up resulting in he was hiding and successfully getting away with it for a period of time until it caught up with him. And he has a long list of charges that are
I was like, bro, what are you doing?
A police chase through 3 counties. It's not a good...
Well, I told him that in front of Keeley. I said, you watch this one. He's a smoozer. He's going to tell you what you want to hear, Keeley.
Right.
And he didn't like that. But again, I'm going to hold you accountable because that's what you need. And if I didn't care about you, I would let you walk all over us. I know Nate and Tommy, they don't play around. They're like 2.0 version of Bobbert, right?
Yeah.
They will let you know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And that's why I commend what they do.
No, they give a lot of tough love to the participants and tell them directly what this is going to look like. And so I do appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, and we talk all the time. We had Scott on, who's a former police officer that works for us now, on our podcast this last week. And we talked a lot about how the justice system is created to be like the last rung on the ladder for people who have clearly demonstrated they can't keep themselves and society safe through their own actions. And that's exactly what you're talking about. So we don't hesitate one bit when it comes down to, this person clearly has a problem. They're hurting themselves and other people. And you're like at this kind of fork in the road where it's like, okay, do you let them just continue with their behaviors, or do you call the police or go to court? We've written letters to people who've gone to court and been like, we don't think this person should be released. Like, we think they should be taken into custody. And people get really mad at us about that, but we're trying to save your life. And if that means that you have to go sit in jail for a little bit, I'd rather have you mad and be alive than me be at your funeral and be like, well, at least he liked me. Because we've had so many situations. We learned the hard way. We stood at a lot of open caskets of people that, we didn't say what we were thinking. We didn't say what we knew to be true, or we didn't, enact certain consequences and held back. And then ultimately it led to their destruction. So like what you're talking about, you wouldn't, like, if you didn't care, you wouldn't say anything. That's so true. Because people talk about love, but what they don't talk, the part of love that they forget is, like, as a parent, when your child does something wrong, you discipline them. Why? Because if they grow up and they do that thing, it could ruin their life. So the same thing is true when you have people, whether it's a judge, whether it's a volunteer, whether it's people that, you know, you've come into their graces because of, you know, you need their professional help. Like, if they don't hold you accountable, they really don't love you and they're not really helping you. I think sometimes we get worried about people's feelings getting hurt. And it's like, I really don't care if I hurt your feelings, but I do want to save your life, you know?
I think that's why I said on that last episode, don't mix up patriotism with complacency. And I always tell vets, don't confuse love for weakness, because me being tough on you means I love you. And I do. Even
just like
as
the
a
military
stranger.
was, right?
Yeah.
Just like your drill instructors were.
So and that's why I even was in her chambers a few months ago, and I was like, I need you to arrest all these people. Like, I'm tired
He
of
did
them.
tell me I was too
I'm
nice
tired of
to
them
them.
walking all over
Yeah.
you. But again, in the Marine Corps, and I'll just speak for the Marines, but if I have a tummy ache, they're going to call me all these mean names. They're going to tell me to rub dirt on my, you know what, and they're going to probably punch me in the gut and be like, does it still hurt, right? So I don't know where you come off, where you can come before a judge and try and manipulate and take advantage of. This judge is, if it wasn't for this judge, you'd be in jail. So you ain't fooling me. And I hate when I see them. And I love the whole program. And I love that they're getting the community service hours. It really helps us because we get, you know, some help. But it's like, once
puts them to
again,
work.
yeah, it's like, once
He's
again,
got a new deck on
you
his
have
house.
I promise I don't assign community service hours just because Jared needs help.
His leaves are raked this
but
year.
it's like, how many dilutes can you have? What do you mean? So it's like,
when less than 10% of the population can naturally give a dilute, I have 99% of the people in the population that are capable of naturally giving them.
Yeah, it's my respect for the military and my respect for what you do that makes me maybe cross the line at times. And I'm like, no, you ain't fooling me. You need to stop. And that's because I love you. I truly care for you, human to human, which is important. But a lot of these people, they're not used to someone loving them, whether it was their trauma growing up or their household growing up or the military. They're not used to that. You know, I grew up in a very lovey household. My mom always said, I love you. And once I left for the Marines, like halfway through, I was like alienated from my family. I didn't want them loving on me or hugging me because I always knew at any moment you could die, right? So I want to have no empathy. But I have no problem now. I'm still like that with my family. I'm more reserved. But when I meet complete strangers struggling, I'll be like, I love you. I want to help you. And I don't know why I am that way, but I do know it's genuine. And from human to human, I want you to succeed. And it's crazy that their own family or friends, they don't want them to succeed. And so I'm like, change your environment. These are not your people, you know? And so I love my time at veteran court. I love even sitting at the drug court. I love sometimes when I see Magistrate Trevino, I can never read him. So like he'll look like he's in a good mood. Out of nowhere, he snaps. And that's like my favorite part because it reminds me of the military. I'm like, get him. But I just love like the whole environment because
First of all, I'm not aware that he's even capable of snapping.
That's what I'm saying. He's like the sweetest person ever. And like he's sitting there with his, what do you guys call it? What is a
robe?
Your robe. I was gonna say a gown, but your robe. And he's just listening to a story.
I'll let Magistrate Trevino know he wears a gown into court every day.
Yeah, he's just sitting there listening to a story. He has a nice smile.
And then he's like,
the guy
BS.
Stucky, I love him. He tells everybody, oh, you're doing a great job. And then Magistrate Trevino's like, but this is what we're going to do. And then they're like, oh, my story didn't work. I love that because even though that person in that situation doesn't realize it, they're getting the best care they can ask for right now. Someone is truly going to hold you accountable. And it's just a beautiful thing. So that's why I love so much what Allendale does, because I'm not saying they're the best in the whole world, right? Everyone's great. But in my opinion, they are the standard. They are the best. They will hold you accountable. And their program's not for everybody. But if you're willing to change, that's where you go. Like they will, from start to finish, sit by you. And that's why it's important that we champion ourselves around. That's why I got you guys. That's why I got you, warriors in the community.
Yeah, and Allendale is always involved with our Corps, and most of my participants can't go to Allendale because they can't afford it. Their insurance isn't the right fit for it. But I always appreciate that Bob and Sam are like, it may not be us, but we're going to get them help. And I think that speaks to the level of care that you guys have for the people that are in need of help. Like I think Sam literally took one of my participants that I was going to take into custody, drove him from the courthouse to the facility that was, I think, in Anderson. But
probably, yeah.
I think he even drove a parent's vehicle home too.
Drove the parent's vehicle back. But I mean, that's the level of care that it doesn't matter that it's not benefiting your company or your facility.
It's benefiting the community.
Correct.
So that's why we're all for it.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about that. Like, you know, you see people who have these programs and people might not qualify, but at the end of the day, when you go home, you still have to live in the community, like where you serve people. So it's like, what kind of community do you want to live in? And also just think about for a second, if you weren't in the position you're in and you were that person struggling, and if that's not enough, just think about everybody has family for the most part, right? So like I always talk about, think about that person standing in front of you and they may be facing 5 felonies and maybe they haven't showered in 2 weeks and maybe they're foul mouthed, but at one point in their life, you know, that kid was somebody who was, you know, this tall and 5 years old, running around with their grandparents, laughing, playing games. And then they were in kindergarten and they said, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they drew a picture in crayon of being a police officer or a doctor, you know, or a vet because they wanted to help people or they wanted to help animals. Like nobody draws themselves as a felon standing in court in kindergarten and is like, yeah, I want to make everybody's life around me hard and I want to be a drain on the system and I really want to make everybody upset. Like you want to help people, but somewhere along the way you got lost. So if we can just grab someone and pull them out of that situation and sometimes literally carry or drag them to that next spot, whether it benefits us directly in that moment or not, doesn't really matter. And part of that is just like recovery in general. We talking about all the time, like in recovery, we say you can only keep what you have by giving it away, which sounds silly and cliche, but it's so true because addiction is so focused on me, how do I feel? And more. Like when you start to turn that off and we talk about that constant thought of others is so important, then you stop thinking about yourself and your own ego and your own will. And you start thinking like, how do I help this person that's standing in front of me? And then when you take them and drop them off and you get them what they need, you don't have those voices in your head telling you that you're a piece of crap and you should go drink and all that stuff. So it helps you, but it also helps that person. And then a lot of times you don't know the ripples that's going to have, right? Like, you know that you see this person standing in front of you, but let's just talk about our friend with 22 kids. Like, what does it mean to those 22 kids and 58 grandkids to have him healthy, sober, and alive versus dead? And we've seen the movie play out both ways a ton of times. You know, we've been to a lot of funerals. We've helped parents bury a lot of kids, parents, grandparents, everything. And their lives are just never the same. And it just impacts everybody. And then there's this forever hole. And that's where you get like generational sickness, generational poverty, generational drug addiction, generational criminal justice involvement. So if we can help be a cycle breaker, I mean, there's just nothing more powerful than that. And, you know, we all love our jobs and what we do, and our center's great, and not everybody can go there. But at the end of the day, what matters is like, what impact did we have on the people in the community? Because it doesn't matter how much money you make or don't make. Like when you lay down at night, that's what really is going to sustain you. And that's what we're talking about with these vets is you go in the military and you're given what immediately? You're given a purpose, and you know what that purpose is. And every single day you wake up, you're living out that purpose. And then you get out and it's like, oh, and like you said, they're used to have people telling them what to do. Every day you get up, we're doing this, we're doing formation. Now we're doing this, we're practicing this. Now they wake up. It's probably scary not to have somebody tell you what to do. Scary not to know what your purpose is. It's like I heard this guy tell a story that, you know, he was a combat veteran. He served in Iraq. He was a sergeant and he led men into combat. And then he came home and he was told like, oh, you're going to have all these opportunities. You know, you're a soldier. Like everybody's going to respect you and you're going to have this, take all these skill sets in the civilian world. And he was mopping up urine at a gas station, you know, and people were like treating him poorly and he's making like minimum wage. And he said, I realized in that moment that my life peaked when I was overseas in combat leading men. And now I'm cleaning up urine and feces on the floor. And he's like, in that moment, I felt like my purpose had run its course and I was just a drain on everybody else around me. And I was no longer the man that I wanted to be. And so I was going to take my own life. And it's like, what a sad thing that he didn't realize that the mission isn't over. It just changed to now being the best husband you can be, being the best father you can be, being the best community member you can be. And that's the thing is everybody talks about I lost my purpose. But people confuse purpose. They think it's like has to be curing world hunger or like starting an organization like Wounded Warrior Project or whatever it is, right? Like something that has this massive global impact that you see on TV.
Right.
But, and I know I've said on here before, but I love Tony Dungy's quote where he says, focus on your impact, not your platform.
Yeah.
So your impact could be a very big deal by just you picking up trash in your neighbor's yard because it blew out of their trash can while they were sitting out waiting for the garbage people. And the lady whose trash can it is 80 years old. She can't pick it up and maybe she's going to get a fine. That is the new mission. It's just to do the best you can in everything that is put in front of you.
Well, so basically what you just said is literally 90% of what I deal with vets.
Yeah.
Is they lose their purpose. You know, I found out I was having a kid like 2 weeks before the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps doesn't care, right?
Right.
So I didn't even know who this lady was that I had this kid. I was like, it's not mine. Did a swab test. It was mine. Shipped off to the Marines. Now I'm in boot camp thinking I made the biggest mistake of my life. I'm getting yelled at and beat up. I got a kid that I don't know about. This is like, what is life? And then I get sent to Japan, which you're not supposed to if you have kids and you're not married. Marine Corps doesn't care. So now I'm watching my kid through a freaking Skype, right?
Yeah.
Luckily, my family raised her, but I wanted to be a drill instructor. That was what my next 4 years were supposed to be after my first 4. And I decided to take a chance and be the father that I didn't have. That's my responsibility, right? Might not have chose to have a kid, but I did. So my rear needs to go home and raise this kid. And then one day I'm a non-commissioned officer in Afghanistan. The next I'm on YouTube videos, how to braid hair. And I had like no rights whatsoever. I had 0 rights over this kid because I live in another country. And for years, I just did the best I could at paying child support and being a positive. But I kept trying to find my purpose. Like my first week I got home, I became a GM of a strip club. I just wanted to protect people, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not my crowd, right? Not for me, not a good scene.
That wasn't a great group of people to surround yourself with?
No.
They didn't help you find your purpose?
It gave me free booze, but
Yeah.
I fired everybody that was doing drugs. I'm like, get out of here. I got in a lot of fights. It was great. I needed it, right? I got free Jameson. It was great. And then I got fired. Why? Trying to get him to go to college.
Right.
The owner didn't like that. So the next job, nightclub security, just wanted to fight people, protect people. I'm not in the Marines anymore. It's not my job to, serve and protect. I have a kid I need to protect.
Right.
That's where, and so I found my purpose. But then it was hard because all of our buddies were killing themselves. And I was like, if they're seeing and doing what I did and they're killing themselves, is that going to happen to me?
Right.
And I was, I was like a part-time dad. I was dad when I had her. And when I wasn't, I was just wild. So I was never suicidal, but I was doing it nonchalantly, drinking and driving, getting pulled over, not getting held accountable, right? Just thank you for your service, escorting me home.
Right.
And so I held myself accountable. We started this nonprofit and I said, I have 2 missions in life. I want to be the best father that I could possibly be and love this little girl. And I want to save lives. Fast forward 10 years, my little girl lives with me. I'm saving lives. I'm partnered with Allendale. I get to work with this judge. So it's all about purpose. And too many people, and I don't know if as a society we're just mentally not as strong, but the second something goes wrong in your life, it's like, I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
Why? And usually you're at fault for why it went wrong. And I just don't understand. And I love what Tommy gave me this bracelet when I was a fat POS, but it says, nobody cares, work harder. And I tell that to vets all the time. I have one vet that's mad because his wife's leaving him. And it's like, well, if you look back on what you've been doing, you go to work, you come home, kiss your kids and your wife, you go to your basement and you drink. Mom cooks food, puts the kids, bathes them, puts them in bed. She goes and lays in bed. You're just drunk in your basement all night. Eventually, over time, you're on these adult dating sites or dating apps, right? Then she catches you.
Right.
And she doesn't want you in her bed because you guys are strangers. You don't communicate, right? And then you're wondering why she wants a divorce, why you're an alcoholic who just lost a job, why you're not fit to be a parent. So your response is, I want to kill myself, instead of what did I do to make this happen?
How do I fix it?
And
right?
it's a simple solution. Put down the bottle, all right? Put down the adult dating apps. Communicate with your wife. That's why you guys got married. That's your partner in crime. Be vulnerable around each other. Don't stop dating. Raise your family. Be the best you can at work. But instead, they want a quick solution. Suicide. And it's like, why is that the answer?
Well, and
let's say you do commit suicide.
Right.
what's that going to do to your kids?
Exactly.
Because I can tell you right now, I've seen it for years, and mentally they're not okay.
What did that guy say? What you said to me one time, I think it was you. If you want to mess up your family, for how many generations commit suicide?
It was Scott.
Scott.
Well,
I'm
someone
sorry.
said it to Scott.
Right. Somebody said it to Scott, and it was what he said. If you want to mess up your family for 3 or 4 generations, commit suicide.
Well, because he was asking him, he was basically doing an assessment with them, and this was recently.
Yes.
And he was asking him if he was struggling with anxiety, depression, blah, blah, blah. You could probably guess who he was talking to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said no to all of that, and then they asked him if he was suicidal, and he said no. And the next thing the guy said was, well, yeah, if you really want to mess your kids up for generations, just go ahead and kill yourself.
It's so true.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary for him to say it in that moment, but what he said was true.
Flippant, yeah.
It was definitely true.
That's the approach that I do with vets because, I mean, that's why my insurance for FW22 is so high, because there's a chance that one day
Because you're a walking liability, Jared.
But I want to give them the hard truth, and
Yeah.
and I've unfortunately seen this to where I'm kind of numb to it, but I've seen what happens to these little kids. I have one family that they found their dad hanging, and they were young. We put them in counseling immediately. It's been 8 years, and I love them to death, but they're not doing good in society.
They'll never be
They're
the same.
never going to function. They are all addicts in some way.
Yeah.
Their relationships are shit.
Yeah.
The family is divorced. They're split.
Yeah.
And for what? I know people say, you shouldn't say that it's selfish. I will say that it is selfish because you ended your pain, but you just gave it to everybody.
I was going to say that.
Everybody.
Yep.
And
Everybody else
and
is
I hate that
suffering
because you
because
didn't
of
even
it.
give those kids a chance.
Yeah. And
they don't even get a chance to go out and some of them even think, was I not enough?
Yes.
So it really angers me. And so I'm like, that's why it's so important that we just love humans,
right.
regardless if you know them or not, because a lot of people, they don't get to experience that.
They don't.
All right, you'll walk right by them and laugh, or like that nosy neighbor page, right?
I
Everyone
think it's
will
just
laugh.
such garbage, dude.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because those people are struggling.
I get really sad. People post videos of people like beating the crap out of each other in the street, and people think it's funny. I'm like, it's really not funny, because how down and out do you have to be like a 45-year-old adult to go out and punch another 45-year-old adult in the face, grab him by the hair, throw him on the ground, and stomp on him in front of kids, everybody, and then post it on Facebook? It's like, it really makes me sad. It does.
If we put that same amount of effort into liking and commenting mean memes and
Right.
stuff, and showing humanity, our community, in my opinion, would be in a lot better place.
Well, and it's one thing to send your friends funny videos and memes and joke around with each other, but it's another thing to put it out there as like this effort, like you're affirming that this is okay. And we talk a lot about this, that these things are contagious, right? Like the negative or positive energy you're going to put out there, it's going to rub off on people. So if you're not intentional about it and you just do whatever you want and it turns out to be negative, you don't know how that's going to impact the next person that's right on the line and how they're going to impact the next person. But if you choose to say something positive, like Tommy can tell you, I've completely been transformed as a human being with like how I interact with people on Facebook. Like I've come so far, and it's funny because
It's good though.
no,
I'm
but
proud
here's the
of
thing,
you.
like, but when I was acting like an a-hole, it really kind of fits the age demographic. I was like 27 years old, or 25 years old. But when you're 32, making jokes and like jumping in people's comment sections to talk crap to them and try to make them mad, people are like,
now he only does it about college football, which
I do, but that's like
that's,
you're always over there.
that's
You know
fine.
what I
You're
mean?
always over there, Notre Dame, this,
Yeah,
Notre Dame,
but
that.
like that's different. You know what I mean? Like that's something where it's just fun to talk crap
Right.
like about sports. But I'm not over there like, getting into arguments about pick whatever political figure you do or don't like and accusing people of being a dirty human being or calling them some kind of name that takes away their humanity because of who they voted for or didn't vote for. Whatever it is, I mean,
I don't know how people, that's like wherever you vote for, that person's not here
right.
in Fort Wayne,
They don't know you're alive, probably.
but I
first of all.
am.
Right.
And let's work together and
Yeah.
not alienate each other because of our political or religion. None of that matters.
Well, it's better to focus on the similarities, right? We talk about this when people come into treatment, because people come into treatment specifically, let's say we'll get an alcoholic that comes in and they're like, well, I'm not a crackhead. I don't belong in these groups of these crackheads. And we're like, okay. First of all, alcohol is a drug. It's legal, but it's a drug. Second of all, look for the similarities, not the differences, right? Like this person maybe stole their kid's Xbox for crack, but you stole things too. But the things you stole were joy, love, peace, sleep, right? Like the family, it's cohesiveness. So like look for the similarities. And I feel the same way about all the stuff we're talking about, which is like you can apply that to like vets that are struggling, civilians that are struggling. It's like at the end of the day, I feel like everyone in those situations is struggling with they lack purpose, they lack direction. And part of that is, I think, is because we've become so divided as a community, not always intentionally, but just when you throw in like social media and phones and all this stuff, people used to go outside and spend time with their neighbors and do
There's
things.
more disconnect between people.
100%.
Like your interactions are through a screen as opposed to a direct face-to-face. And kids growing up don't know how to communicate directly with someone. It's all done via text.
Right.
But to your point, like how you treat people, I mean, that's part of what our program is with the problem solving courts is evidence-based practices is a 4-to-1 ratio. For every bad thing I say to the participant, I'm supposed to be saying 4 nice things. And it's amazing to see how receptive people are to the positive things. Like when you're giving them encouragement about the things they're doing right, it helps them focus on doing those right things as opposed to all I've done today is tell you you've done this, 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 and this wrong. I think about it with my kids too. Like if I come home and I'm like, I have a 15-year-old son, like, you didn't do this, Bobby, you didn't do this, you did miss this test, or you did bad on this test, or you forgot this homework. You just watch, like as I'm sitting there, I'm like, you can just see the level of sadness, like overcome a child. And if you turn it around and be like, you know what, did you do your personal best? Changing how you're reaching them and talking to them, it makes a big difference to the people in court, and it makes a big difference to your family too. So I think having that connection and focusing on those positive things, even when there's a lot of bad stuff going on, makes a huge difference.
Well, we talked to Scott this week on the podcast, and this was directed at law enforcement, but it's completely applies to your court as well. When the officer shows up and there's a domestic dispute, that might be the only positive person that ever comes into their life that's like a stable human being that encourages them and says something to them and asks them how they are and then gives them advice on how to fix it. Same thing is true of your court.
Right.
Like, I'm sure we can all just only imagine, and some of us have been there ourselves, but like the things that they walk out of in their home to come to court, and the court is like the one place where there's, and I know it's kind of like a pun, but there's order in the court, right? Literally. I mean, people don't speak out of turn. They're not screering. They're not yelling, hopefully. No. Right? Like it probably happens once in a while.
Every once in a while.
Right.
Apparently Magistrate Trevino snaps a bit occasionally.
Right. Hey, this is the last person you expect to do it too.
Yeah.
But, that's so great that you try to focus on being kind, treating them like a human being, because you encouraging them and building them up, that might be the only encouragement they ever get. How many people go home and then their family tells them, well, you'll never be shit.
Right. And you see how some of them, I mean, most of them do have some support, but a lot of them don't. Like, you have people that are coming in there and like, their mom, they're living with their mom, but their mom is an addict as well and is encouraging that behavior. And one is a mom that's losing her daughter, because she's living with her. And I have to look at her and say, you can't stay with your mom. And that's a hard thing to tell somebody. Like, I know that that's your mom and that somebody you think should be supporting you, but she's not helping you be successful in this program, and she's not helping you be successful as a mother yourself. And you don't think about that if you had a good family growing up, that's not normal for them. Like, this is a normal thing to them, like to have parents or even just one parent that's just telling them what a piece of crap they are, or like, this is the only thing you're ever going to amount to. But to have somebody come alongside them, a whole team of people in that courtroom that are saying, we want you to be successful. We want you to be the best that you can be. And we're going to help you do that. But you have to be committed to the program. And sometimes they do start out the program where they're not interested in really getting treatment. And the number of times I've heard somebody tell me that's got their 2nd or 7th OWI, I'm not an alcoholic, I don't need this program. I'm like, well, you signed up for it, so we're going to go through this, but it is voluntary. If you want to leave, go ahead. Yeah. But they don't necessarily see the problem when they're at that beginning stages. And so they want the deferral.
Yeah,
they don't want to go through all the steps, because it is hard. It is hard work to go through the program and to be successful in it. It would be much easier for them to go spend their time in jail. And I say that to people all the time. Like, some people will look at it and say, this is just a foo-foo. It's not a real court. It's not really doing anything. We're not punishing people for their crimes, but I'm making them do a lot more than they would otherwise have to do.
Right.
And it is hard work. I mean, Jared sees these people, like the work that they have to put into it, the time they have to spend putting in it. It's a lot of time and effort that they're spending trying to get back on the right track. And if they don't have people in their like they go home and they've got a mom or a sister or a brother or anyone, a girlfriend, boyfriend that is just telling them, this is a waste of your time. You're not going to amount to anything. That's a hard thing to counteract. Like, I'm only there with them every other week, but you're living, 24/7 with this person that's not giving you the support that you need. It's really easy for them to get off the path that we're trying to put in front of them.
Yeah. I mean, you guys do a great job, though. I mean, basically what you're doing is you're telling them, like, you're going to go and you're going to get these tools and you're going to practice how to use them. What you do when you leave my court or when you're done with this program is up to you.
Right.
But you can at least take some comfort in the fact that you gave them those things and you expose them to that. And you might be the only person, again, that exposed them to positive things in their life. We always talk about planting seeds, right? We have so many people say, well, what's your success rate? It's like, well, how do you measure success? We measure it by how many people complete the program.
Right.
They say, well, what's your recidivism rate? And it's like, well, it's fairly high, but that's because drugs and alcohol, like substance use, is a relapsing disease,
it's very
right?
hard to say. It's very successful, but
right. Well, and we say that, the average number of attempts is 7, first of all, right? And second of all, people will say, well, isn't that a waste of time to go back to treatment? You've been in treatment 10 times. Why would you go back? It's like, because you pick up a piece of the puzzle every time you go. And you keep watering those seeds and you never know when they're going to sprout and grow and then grow fruit. Like, you just never know. But as long as they're alive and they're willing, it's like,
that's
let's
kind of
try.
the point. Like, it doesn't, what is my success rate? If I save one person, I think I've done my job.
You have.
That's all I needed to do. I saved one person, but in your heart that you're saving a lot more people than that.
Absolutely.
But to say, did I have some people that came back and picked up another OWI after the program? Absolutely. But during that time, that 2.5 years period, we're working on teaching them new things, and they're saying, like, look, I know these things, but it's something that I have to hear again and again to have it set in.
Well, that's another thing that we say all the time too, is like you were just saying, why would I go back? Obviously it didn't work. Well, you were in our program, so you completed the inpatient phase, you completed residential, you completed the aftercare phase. While you were there, you weren't drinking and you weren't getting high. You were surrounded by positive people. So it did work. But then you left and you stopped doing the work that you were doing while you were there to make sure that that didn't happen. So it's not that the program doesn't work. It's you just don't implement that stuff once you leave. Maybe it's because you don't have the great support at home. But like you said, that's a 2.5 year long program. That's a lot of time to build support out in the community.
Well, and what's the alternative? Like stick them in prison or they die, right? I mean,
so I have one participant that has had his 7th OWI. So he does a great job under supervision. When you have that accountability from somebody else, we have people that do really well on the program. They never violate, they've never tested positive. And then I go away and they're right back to doing the same things they've always done. And, I'm talking to him just this last week and I'm like, we need to build you a program now before you finish this program to give you the same support that I'm giving you right now, so that when I walk away, you still have those people in your life that are going to be able to support you and hold you accountable and keep you on the right track. Because if you can do it over and over again on a program like this, you can do it by yourself, but you just have to build that. We have to build it in a different way. You don't want to always be in front of the court just to stay sober. That's not the route you want to take. So you can do it, but it just takes that extra effort. And I will never forget one of the last graduation we had. This lady, she was finishing up the program and she'd done really, really well. And she looked at me and she said, I'm more scared now finishing this program than I was when I started it. Wow. And I said, why would you be scared? And she's like, I don't know how I'm going to do this without you. And I said, well, we're not going away. We're still your partner in this. But it's one of those things, like just building that support before you leave the program to know that you have the skills. And that's what the last phase is about, building that support. But you don't know if you've done it until they're on their own, right? And I don't see them when they're on their own and unless they were to come back. But that's what we're trying to do, is help them see that when they change those people, places, and things, they can build that support that's going to help them maintain their sobriety. And sometimes it doesn't work, but you know that you're making a difference, and you're making a difference for me, I know I'm making a difference for those children too, because if I can help their parents change the direction they're on. Generationally, you're showing these kids a different path that they can go on, so that we're not seeing them involved in the same path or having their kids taken away. I mean, the number of people in our program that have had their children taken away is really sad. Now, so to think about that they're bringing kids into this program, if we can change that and help them see there's something different, and that as kids they can see their parent, like to have a 16-year-old son came into court and to see his dad doing so well in the Veterans Court program, and I just looked at him, I was like, how proud of you that are you of your dad that he's here doing this and accepting responsibility and doing so well. And he was just to have him there, I think was really a big encouragement for his dad. But I think it also speaks to like that child as well, to see that there is something different that can be accomplished.
Well, and that redemption's possible. You know what I mean? Like, you can fall down and make mistakes, but as long as you get back up and you keep trying, I mean, because everybody's going to go through stuff in their life, whether it's you get arrested and go to court or you're going to lose somebody close to you. But, how you end up handling it is at the end of the day up to you. Right. And you may not start out handling it super well, but you can see that while you're making mistakes, you can correct them as you go and get back on that right track. And it's really what life's all about. We all hit speed bumps along the way.
Well, I always, like, obviously I don't talk about my kid a lot. It's always like I like to keep myself private, but like with my kid, I'm always very open and honest with her, because I feel like, when we're kids, we're taught, like life's beautiful, everything's easy, nothing's hard. And so like when I have days where I'm struggling, I talk to her about it. She's always like my best friend, if that makes sense. And so I don't want her to think I'm invincible. And so I'll talk to her about a case that I'm dealing with some vets or something. And by doing that, it gets her to open up to me. But I love that we have our relationship like that, because if I was, let's just say, to get in trouble with the law and then for whatever reason I had to do one of these, I'd be ashamed of myself, but I wouldn't be embarrassed, because I know she's going to be there for me. She wants to support. And I think oftentimes we hide what we're going through from our friends or our family until it's to the point where it's like, your mugshots on TV or something. But you can't be honest with them, right? Because they're going to judge you. I know if my daughter gets in trouble, she knows I'm going to support her 100% of the way. And I know that she'll be able to talk to me about it. Like, we have a really close bond. And sometimes she tells me stuff that makes me sad. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to hear this. But it's a beautiful thing when, like that kid, that 16-year-old, proud of their parent. That's a huge thing. Yeah. And there's no shame in messing up. It's, what do you do after you mess up, right? And that's a beautiful thing. And so, yeah, my biggest goal with the vet court is I'm definitely going to give them tough love, but I want them, they can't do it while they're in, because it's hard work. I mean, I give them props. It's way easier just to take a charge. But when they get out, I want to recruit them. I want them involved with our veteran community, our mental health, our addiction and recovery. I want their kids involved, because that's literally the only thing that you got from the military that you can still carry on is that camaraderie, that bond, that skill set. And instead we're invincible. We're not allowed to struggle. We can't admit that we have an addiction. We can't tell our family that we're hurting. We have to alienate ourselves from our wife or hide the truth from our kid. And you just got to be transparent, change your environment. So I really do hope when these vets graduate that they can come on board. And I mean, now we're doing active duty. It was the one active duty. He's out now, but he was active duty with an ankle bracelet. And that's what really made me want to start getting back into the active duty troops. And we just did it the 293rd. Yeah. And the statistics were alarming. How many are struggling mentally while in? And if I don't get to them now, they're eventually going to be in a vet court or into my program. So I'm trying to, and it is wild to me that to be 19 years old, I call it a weekend warrior. You're a G.I. Joe 3 days out of the month. You're with your mom and dad and your family. So what is so bad in life? And, like for me, I lived in Japan, waiting to see my kid on a Skype before I go to Afghanistan. Like, I thought that was hard. Right. But it's this, they're struggling mentally. Right. And so we got to get in front of them, and we got to let the military know it's okay that they're struggling. Right. You can't tell your higher ups that you're struggling, because that's going to restrict you from deploying, going on, picking up rank. So you're going to feel like a failure while you're in. But if you can let your unit know that it's okay to struggle and it's okay to work through it, you'll be the best soldier ever. So, and I love that our vet court numbers are low, because I don't want it to be packed. I want vets to stay out of trouble, but I do have a soft spot for them when they're in the program. And like I love when I'm at drug court, but as soon as it's vet court, we do like the Pledge of Allegiance, we do a moment of silence. I'm like, I feel like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Like I'm like,
You're
what are we
getting
gonna do
there.
to take care of these guys and these women? And I do build bonds with them. There's the one guy that's always oversleeping and his alarm, and he's drinks like 70 bottles of water a day.
Are you talking about Nate?
No. I won't say his name, but he calls me randomly all the time, and he'll like, hey, I just want you to know I'm gonna my test was diluted, and I'm like, why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
Like I'm happy, but I wasn't used to it. And he's like, I didn't want you to be mad at me. I'm like, I'm not mad at you.
Right.
I'm here with you regardless. You're stuck with
meanwhile,
me.
he's telling me I need to throw him in jail.
Yeah. No,
Wow.
we did a lot of, I mean,
No.
he's done some community service hours.
Yeah.
The thing about him that kills me is he says he's forgetful, which is fine. I'm forgetful, so I text myself every night what I need to do.
Yeah.
What drives me nuts about him is he'll have like 14 hours of community service due that day, and he doesn't tell me that they're due until that day, and he's only done 1 hour, and then I'm like, bro, let me see if I can talk to the judge, but this weekend you're stuck with me for 8 hours each day. You're gonna hate it. That's what I don't like, but he's a good guy. They're
I
all
do
good
remind
people.
them, like, don't wait till the last minute to do that and then ask me for an extension, because I'm not going to have a lot of grace if you chose to wait 3 weeks and then wonder why you couldn't get your 14 hours of community service done.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm like, I gotta talk to the judge, see what we can work out. And I'm like,
Jared, didn't you give him some hours?
I'm not getting in trouble for this. I get nervous, but the programs are good. And I wish there was more community involvement, honestly, in them, because, and that's kind of, I haven't told her yet, but she's gonna speak with us at that event at the end of the year. Clinton already said he's down also.
Good.
But it's the bringing the community together, because they all say they want to help and support, right? Our community, and all these nonprofits want to help and support. But then as soon as that conversation's over, they're off doing their own agenda, and they're not helping you or partnering up with you. So this is going to be a great way where leaders get to build relationships, hold them accountable. And if you're truly a company or nonprofit that wants to, be together, then what are we doing for these vets in vet corps or in drug corps or in addiction and recovery? Like, I'm happy that your company has great out of network and we can send them to Allendale. Beautiful. What are you doing for their family? What are you doing for their mental health? What are you doing for once they get back? So I'm really excited for that. And I'm really excited to see what I can do with the vet corps. I'm really excited to get the judges involved with our active duty training so they can see like what we do on a large scale. And I'm just excited just for I don't know, maybe I'm the half glass full guy, but the possibilities are endless. And we have some really good people in Allen County. I mean, I love our city. We're a very pro-military city, I can tell you that, but we have a lot of nonprofits and companies that are huge on addiction and recovery and mental health. I'm pumped for what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I'm excited too. I like I told you when you were presenting for our graduation ceremony, I just feel incredibly blessed to have you want to partner with Circuit Court and to reach these veterans, because we've always struggled to have mentors that want to come in and actually be, I mean, it is an emotionally draining process to be sitting in court every day or every week talking to people that are struggling. But so they don't stick around very long. They get burnt out with it. And so to have somebody that that is so committed, such as yourself, to partner with is an amazing asset to have. And I feel very fortunate to have you.
Well, not to be cheesy, but passion fatigue is a thing.
Compassion fatigue,
And I've had that, I experienced that years ago, but again, not to be weird, but it's about your environment. And what they do is similar to what I do, and we have tough days. But at the end of the night, we all talk, and we let it out, and it's because of like my brothers that I'm able to continue to do that, because I don't want to. I'm not going to give up on them. I'm gonna be stuck with you guys until you tell me to piss off. But it's because I have literally it's these two every night. I'm texting like, what a day, or this is what I did, and that's what helps me reset for the next day. So it's important. It's all about your environment.
It's hard not to be invested in each of the people that are coming in front of you, and it's sad when they aren't successful in the program as well, or meeting your expectations, and it's frustrating, but at the same time you still got to show up.
But you're in the fight, and that's the important thing. You know what I mean? I've thought about that when I got burnt out at various times. It's like, well, I'm going to go do something else, and I think, well, what the hell else am I going to go do? Part of it's like you're like, I know too much. I know that there's too much to be done, and I wouldn't feel right stepping out. Like, I'm tired, but who isn't?
Yep.
Well, God has a interesting way of putting you where you belong. never in a million years I think I was going to come home from the Marines and run a nonprofit, let alone even have custody of my kid. But
right.
this is what I do for a living. I wouldn't change it for the world. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done, and it is the most humbling because it lets me know that this could be me as well.
Yep.
And so it's so important that whoever I come across, I treat them with kindness and respect, because you never know what's going on in that head of theirs. So it's definitely been a reward, and it's taught me so much. And like I said, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have the strength to do this. If it wasn't for you guys, my late night texts, venting, it wasn't for her letting me come to her chambers and tell them to throw them all in jail. So I appreciate you. It means a lot. I'm excited for the work that the four of us are going to do in the future. And I'm excited to see you on Wednesday. I'm excited to talk to you after this episode about your voluntold speaking event. And I'm just blessed that you graced us with your presence today, and we got to just chill and have a meaningful conversation and talk about Allendale and FW22.
Thank you.